Hello there gorgeous gamers and welcome back to Pure Play TV, and today we've got our review for Watch Dogs Legion for PS5, PS4, Xbox Series XS, Xbox One, PC and Stadia. The version we're reviewing in this video is the PS4 version of the game running on PS4 Pro, and a review code was provided by Ubisoft. I'm a big fan of Watch Dogs. While everyone else was laughing at the original Watch Dogs for being a massive downgrade against its E3 showing, I was hacking my way through Chicago and having a great time doing it. Watch Dogs 2 refined the best bits of the original and went on to be my game of the year for the year that it released, even if the hipster talk did fly over my head. And now we have Watch Dogs Legion, the third entry in the series, and a new, near-future London to run around and cause mischief in. But is it an improvement? Does it take the series further, or is it more of the same? Well, it's definitely more, let's say that. Before we carry on with this review, do us a favour and hit the like and subscribe buttons down below, as well as the bell icon so that you're the first to know when we've got new stuff. Cheers my dears. Watch Dogs Legion's new setting could not have come at a better time. The UK is currently being run into the ground by its corrupt and incompetent government. The population is split on the great Brexit debate, and there's general unrest as citizens fight their team's corner on Twitter. We don't really do the whole stand around with machine guns thing in the UK, so calling people gammons or lefties on Twitter is about as combative as it gets. Watch Dogs Legion's London is in a similar situation, albeit a bit more extreme. A terrorist hacker called Zero Day has set off a series of explosions through the capital city, killing many people, and then framing the good hacker group DedSec for the crime. Now the streets are being patrolled by a private security force called Albion, and DedSec's name is less than mud. Things are not looking good for the hacker collective then, and the opening chapter introduces us to the de facto leader, Sabine, as her team is wiped out during the attacks. She manages to flee far from London before making contact with the last remaining operative, you, whoever you may be. The big change this time around is that you can play as anybody, literally anybody. It might take a bit of an effort to play as some characters, but mostly you can play as just about anybody that you see on London's bustling streets. This is a game changer, but it's not perfect. From a gameplay perspective, it's fantastic and it blows the game wide open. Characters have their own skills and perks which can be used to make missions easier. For instance, if a mission needs you to get into a police station, you'll have a much easier time if you're playing as a policeman, rather than throwing on your pig mask and running through the front doors. But not everybody is willing to join your band of merry hackers. You'll have to convince them to join you, and some take a little more convincing than others. You can sway a character's opinion of DedSec by doing a good deed for them, and this essentially means that as long as you're recruiting, you've got missions to do. It's an endless cycle then, and permadeath makes it even more so. With the permadeath option enabled, your characters, when they die, will die for good. And if they all die, it's game over. The problem I had is that if everybody is the main character, nobody is. The story pushes on no matter who you're playing as. The same lines will be spoken and the same actions will take place. The only difference is who you're embodying as these moments play out. It made it hard for me to really care about any particular character. Instead, you're expected to care about the collective that is DedSec. But without a central figurehead, it was easy for me to become disinterested in the good guy characters. That's just me though, and after following Aiden's tragedy in Watch Dogs and watching Marcus and his group of friends rise up for the greater good in Watch Dogs 2, it's hard to imagine how I will say a new version of this sentence in the inevitable Watch Dogs 4 review. So, we don't have a great protagonist to rally behind, though the sassy AI computer helper, Bagley, is always welcome in my ears. But we do at least have some formidable villains in the form of Zero Day, Albion and Clan Kelly, the last remaining London gang headed by the truly evil Mary Kelly. Ubisoft has always had a knack for creating great villains, but they've also had a knack for underusing them, and that's the same here, especially with the head of the Clan Kelly gang. She's truly repulsive, but by far the most realistic antagonist I've seen in a long time. I know people who act like she does, and honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they turned out to be organ harvesting gangsters either. Alright, we're getting into spoiler territory here, and I don't want to spoil what is a great story, but you should know that there are some standout moments, as well as characters that give these moments weight. The only real issue is that it's not your characters delivering, it's the outside cast. That's not to say I didn't enjoy building a team. I did. It's well done, and having a bit more control over your characters and their fates, especially with permadeath enabled, is refreshing. While there is sure to be a limit where you'll end up repeating scenarios, I've not yet hit it. But I'm not going out of my way to do these character missions. But should you? Yeah, probably. They do make life a lot easier, as do the numerous equipment upgrades and skills that can be bought with collected currency. That being said, I did manage to brute force my way through a few of the game's missions, putting the game's combat to the test. Watch Dogs Legion places a greater focus on hand-to-hand combat, as well as using melee weapons, some of which are truly inspired, like the paramedic pulling out his chest paddles to deliver a finishing blow to a stunned enemy. Fantastic! The gunplay is still good, mind you, but not every character comes equipped with a ready-for-war arsenal. In fact, none of them do. If a character has a firearm, it's just the one, plus the standard non-lethal pistol that all operatives carry with them. Considering that DedSec is trying to convince the people of London that it's not actually a terrorist organisation, it does make narrative sense for the group to be as passive as possible, only pulling out the big guns when there's no other choice. Mostly though, you can get through the game with a combination of stealthy takedowns, quick brawls, and smart use of drone technology. Just like in Watch Dogs 2, some missions can be done remotely, only this time you'll be hacking the drones that fill London's uncharacteristically clean sky. The rush hour smog is cleared thanks to electric cars. Or you can pull out your own drone, bought via the upgrades menu or as part of your operative's default loadout. I really enjoy this aspect of the game. The option is always there for a stealthy approach, and it's actually a viable option, but it takes more brain power. If you play it smart, you can be in and out without anyone ever knowing you were there. It's not perfect by any means, and sometimes I struggle to figure out which camera would be the best to hack for my needs at that moment, and it often led to me jumping back and forth between a dozen security cameras before finding the right one. The hand-to-hand combat is actually really good and has been refined over the previous games. It's a little similar to earlier Assassin's Creed games, with blocking, dodging, block breaking, attacking, and even counter-attacking. In fact, Assassin's Creed is what Watch Dogs Legion feels a lot like. The game is set in London, like Assassin's Creed Syndicate, and the map is divided into boroughs that must be reclaimed by doing side activities. Again, just like Assassin's Creed Syndicate. That's not a bad thing, and it's not a bad comparison to make. I really like the Assassin's Creed games, and if you do too, then Watch Dogs Legion is familiar, even if it feels like a strange, dangerous new world. You can't fly across the skies of London on a drone in Syndicate, after all. Graphically, Watch Dogs Legion looks the part, at least on PS4 Pro. London has been reimagined as a futuristic metropolis with imposing neon signs reminding the citizens who is in charge, who they should hate, and what they should think. Characters walk around and go about their daily lives, complete with their own schedules to keep to. The city's tight streets are reasonably well populated with traffic, though you won't run into any of the famous London congestion, thankfully. There are some quirks to the game and its presentation, namely in the lip-syncing of characters. This is something I picked up on when I got an early look at the game back at E3 2019, and unfortunately, it's still really off. I'm kind of used to this as I watch a lot of dubbed movies and TV shows. It's a great way to learn a language, so it wasn't as bad as it seemed. But you may find it more distracting than I did. My solution? Play the game in German. Your solution? Get used to it, I'm afraid. Another strange quirk is that the cars in the game don't actually seem to have anybody in them. They drive around the city in auto-driving mode, because, in the future, self-driving cars are everywhere. But I've yet to hijack a car and throw some poor sod onto the ground. I get that some cars may be on their way to their owners, but all of them? It's a small, weird quirk of the game, but one that needlessly took me out of the experience every time I jumped in a car. The driving itself though has been greatly improved upon with this release, and cars feel more responsive, And they need to be too, if you're going to be buzzing through the many alleys and one-way roads, as well as over the famous landmarks like Tower Bridge. Cars aren't your only method of travel, mind you, as big delivery drones can be hacked and you can fly them across the city. It's slower, sure, but it looks bloody cool. And that's Watch Dogs Legion in a nutshell. Cool. It's a cool game full of cool ideas. It's not breaking much new ground when it comes to gameplay, most of which we've seen before, but this time it's all a bit more refined, and that's cool by me. And that's the end of this review. I really do hope you enjoyed this video. I really enjoy playing the game, and I'm probably going to play it again on the Xbox Series S when that gets here next week. If you did enjoy this video, please do hit the like and subscribe buttons down below. It really does help us, and we appreciate it massively. I've been Chris, you've been Happy Hackers, and I'll see you on the next one. Until then, bye!
Driving into the vehicle, over.